we're going to be joining this good old PVZ up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, top of the red Protoss player from Ting Esports. He is Neeb. Oh my god, I feel like I'm
bottom right. I love that music. It is gonna be Lions RiSky from the UK, but representing Australia for I guess
New Zealand.
The C region.
Was it New Zealand?
New Zealand. Well, yeah, I suppose he is representing New Zealand, right? He has a double nationality, does he?
Yes, has that good old passport to participate in the ANZ region. I do want to also mention RiSky representing proudly Blocksport Lions. Pretty interesting to see how he's going to play this now, because we've been talking a lot about how Neeb is heavily favored coming into this one. And RiSky has got to be the one that has to do something a little bit different and strange, right?
He's already switched it up. Was he wearing a Serral portrait earlier? Because it's a Snoot one now.
Yeah, that is a Snoot one. You know,
I think he might have been wearing a Serral one earlier. I'm not sure.
He was wearing a Serral one against Serral. And I have to imagine that was happening on the European server also, which is where we are right now. So
he already switched it up.
All right, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Getting in Neeb's head. Would it have been a better move to switch to the Neeb portrait against Neeb?
No, I think he's trying to channel. Like, I think against Serral, he was trying to channel some Serral energy. Now he's trying to channel some Snoot energy. Now, I'm not sure how well Snoot fared against Neeb, but I imagine at some points he was dominant.
Yeah,
maybe that's the key here, Ravi.
Yeah, I hope that he's not planning to do that, but I mean, that's mostly just because I think that Neeb has a pretty sick late game PVZ, as he demonstrated versus Scarlet, and that was Snoot's forte, right? It was taking it to like the 60-minute mark.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, probably don't want to channel Snoot. The first stalker is gonna pop out, and RiSky has his Overlord well positioned so that it can run away to that high ground. So not any losses here. Well planned first Overlord on this map. Kind of, you know, newish map, so he's definitely thinking about all the little things so far.
Yeah, it is going to just be that Stargate opening. Neeb really favoring a lot of those kind of standard stock openings usually, and he's quite good with those Stargate openings, getting up. So, you know, I think he actually really still does enjoy going for 3 Oracles well, which is something I tended to notice with him in the NA games.
Yeah, and I think Stargate and 3 Oracle openings have also gotten a little bit stronger on the back of the shield batteries, if you want to expand, because these openings were so good for just taking a safe third, and there were some Olins that would be punishing. Was just talking to some players about this brand of play, and now it seems as though as if the shield battery overcharge kind of accounts for that for those responses, at least pretty heavily. So I wouldn't mind seeing Oracles come back.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Where, yeah, the shield battery does kind of just cover for you a little bit, makes it a little bit easier to expand and everything, which is still funny because I feel like we still see a lot of other Protoss players going heavy on Resident Enclave to depth, especially a lot of those Europeans. So it does kind of back in the question also, like, who has RiSky been able to practice with and everything. I know he actually still pretty good friends with a lot of those other Europeans. So I feel like he's got to have had some pretty decent practice partners prepare. And I also am pretty sure that RiSky acknowledges, like, in this group of Serral, Innovation, and Neeb, he's got to at least be able to beat Neeb in this.
I guess that's the mindset that you would have if you're RiSky. Honestly, if I were RiSky going into this group, I'd be pretty happy if I took one map. Like, realistically, you know, he's so far down MMR-wise. He comes from arguably the weakest region. I mean, like, if we're being super real, you know,
being very honest,
these guys, I'll be pretty happy.
All right, so Neeb is going around with these 2 Oracles, already finding 6 drone kills, has not lost an Oracle just yet. Attempted cancel over there to keep one of those drones alive from RiSky. Loses no more drones in the main base. Both of those Oracles going to be sitting very low on hit points and use a lot of energy, but six drones for 0 Oracles lost is definitely not too bad of a start there for Neeb.
Definitely, and now the Adepts are gonna get caught though, and this is really nice for RiSky, but the Oracles pulling back and being in position are gonna trade much too effectively against those Lynx, who are now forced to try and get maybe a cancel, get some damage going, but it doesn't look like he's gonna find much.
Yeah, if there wasn't the Warpin or the Shays hadn't already moved all the way back home, then I think that there was maybe an opportunity there just because the shield battery wasn't actually done yet at the third base. It would have been a little bit awkward, and the oracles had already run out of energy. But yeah, well, I guess this is still another nice catch. Remember, those oracles, again, very low in energy. They're not going to be able to help out too much.
Yeah, they're actually all drained out of energy, and that is a very nice catch from RiSky, and maybe the first break that he's getting in this game. That's really nice.
Oh, got a little bit scary. Thought he might try and dive in there, but
okay.
extra force fields used.
Force fields, right? Like, not too bad, Ravi.
Yeah, I mean, remember, that's going to actually cut down on hallucination energy and everything. So now the oracles that are already low on hit points do have to go back in to get additional scouting information and see, okay, the layer should be finishing up around this time, if not already kind of finished up for an earlier layer already. What have you got? What are you making right now? Because that's going to be the big question. RiSky actually a little bit supply block, so nothing is coming out right now, Cats.
Yeah, sadly. +1 milli, very, very sketchy, I will say. I don't know. Like, you want to get to +2 at some point. You usually want this thing to kind of start a lot earlier, the +1 milli, you know, to maybe try and deny a third or fight those adepts earlier. This is starting late, and he's getting roach speed alongside the +1 milli. I wonder if that's a little bit of a misclick, or he's going for something like a Ravager Ling attack where he just tries to surround with all the Lings, and then... But even then, I would prefer, I think, the Carapace, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could see maybe that it's leading into like a later game plan as well, where he's going for +1 melee so we can go up to +2 melee a little faster and then really capitalize on those Banelings. We do a lot of Baneling run-bys and everything, so maybe there's that, but losing a bunch of these Lings, remember, RiSky had just made a massive round of drones before he started this roach production, so that's going to actually cut down a lot on his army as Neeb charges across the map.
Yeah, we'll pick off one of those oracles, so that's really nice. And yeah, I think that has to be his plan, Ravi. I'm just not sure that it's early enough. I think that you could get more value out of that melee coming in earlier. But yeah, I mean, definitely he's going to have to make some Banelings work, and that's going to be what he tries to do. He has a lot of Ravagers defensively. This is the best unit that you can have defensively, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. Lings are now... Actually, it's Roaches being produced, which I don't like so much. They're going to be much slower to join the fray.
Yeah, he did just finish up a few Zerglings there. He went from 6 to about 26, but at the end of the day, like, it's just not actually that many. But ooh, the hatchery does manage to survive over here. Starting to push this army back. He's now got that high ground as well. And with the War Prism also having to back off, that means that high ground vision doesn't exist. This is maybe turning into a narrow defense.
I like it. I like it a lot now because the roaches that he made before, now that he pushed this attack back, it's kind of irrelevant to win the fight. So you would rather oftentimes have those more core units, if you will. Neeb is going to attempt at this one more time. No! Wow. Okay, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, well, I think that maybe if RiSky had more queens still sitting over at that fourth base, like even if he was just getting ready to transfuse it back up, like he may have been able to keep that alive and push back that War Prism. That was going to be a tough sell, but it's sitting so low on hit points. RiSky double expanding now, but I would have loved when that hatchery gets that low on hit points, just go for the other hatchery immediately. Like, you got to expect to lose the hatchery.
Especially against Neeb, but that was so quick by Neeb to just, you know, get the War Prism and the Immortals loaded and back away to safety. And it was just, well, a well-crafted little snipe, and it was a fastly crafted little snipe as well. So difficult to react in time if you're RiSky, who is now in a little bit of trouble. These Immortals are still doing a lot of work, Rabbi.
Yeah, I do want to note that +1 weapons got sniped off, and the Twilight Council was getting pretty low with charge not quite yet finished, but it is going to finish safely as the army gets pushed back. And Neeb is actually starting to move around on the map, poaching forward, but deciding to pull back as he establishes his fourth base and gets it properly saturated and warps in a few more Archons. But I mean, Cats, I actually don't see Storm coming out right now. There is a double Forge on the way, but a lot of what Neeb is kind of making right now kind of rings to me that he's maybe thinking about another push out soon.
Yeah, to be honest, Ravi, if RiSky had not lost that base, and there was only one transfuse, I think, available from what I checked, but if he had not lost that base, I think this could have been a really good position for him, honestly. Right now, I don't think he's even completely out of it. Like you said, there's no Storm on the way, and his +2 is finally about to finish. So that is something that comes into play where you can throw Banelings into the army more confidently and look for those run-bys and those drops potentially.
Ooh. Well, Neeb was going to be very out of position because he was moving around outside of his fourth base, chasing after a few Zerglings. Blink is going to get denied over there. And also, I want to note that means that +2/+2 is going to be delayed if he doesn't start up that Twilight Council again. Does immediately do so. Catches the Ling run by. So not major losses here for Neeb, but RiSky's keeping Neeb at home.
Yeah, this is good play by RiSky. He's getting the Hive and the Spire as well at the same time. Now starting the +1 attack on the Roaches is a little bit... yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's good, maybe it's the way, but it looks like he wants to transition into Broodlords. And yeah, I like that. If he can keep Neeb on his toes like he has been, that's the way.
Yeah, but look at that game sense from Neeb. He's already got the Fleet Beacon on the way, and of course he's going to try and make use of this army before the Broodlords actually manage to get onto the field. But he sees that army is moving over toward his third base as he moves a decent chunk of his army down to the south side of his fourth.
Yeah, it's a great move by RiSky. Look, all the army of Neeb is off position. He might have to recall if he's gonna attempt at a hold. But why is RiSky backing? Actually, I guess he's scared of the flank. No.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't know where the rest of the army is, and also, you know, that shield battery plus the Archon, they hold on for a very long time.
No, yeah, Neeb was going for the flank. I think this is a sensible choice actually for RiSky because he doesn't want to lose this army before Broodlord. So I think that's actually very consistent. These Banelings could be huge. I am right. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from RiSky here.
I think he's actually bringing some really, really good StarCraft right now. The cannon's going to try and take out a few of these Banelings. Neeb is already pre-splitting some of the pros, but they still one-shot those workers. More Banelings finishing up at home as well. So Neeb got him both micros.
Okay, nice. 20 workers just went down. There was nowhere to run. Now Neeb is actually going to pull back, and this is the best case scenario for a RiSky that is transitioning into Broodlords. I think he's in a position where he can take this game, Ravi, and he has looked really good at doing it so far, I think.
No, I completely agree right now. Neeb is in a very awkward spot where he's trying to get up a fifth base, but he's only got 62 probes. He's only sitting on 1-1. Well, the Banelings are getting knocked back by a lot of cannons, but yeah, Neeb is having to get the big transition up. But here's the awkward thing right now, Cats. He got up the Fleet Beacon. He does only have one Stargate, though, and he's not really investing in anything to deal with the Broodlords right now. He's just relying on Blink Stalkers for now.
Yeah, Blink Stalkers will do it if there's not a lot of Broodlords. So RiSky has to be... Oh, and he's going to get super spotted here. So he really has to make sure that when he makes Broodlords, A, Neeb isn't pushing into him, and B, you have enough that the Blink Stalkers can just blink and snipe a couple and make him irrelevant.
Well, a couple of Banelings going down over there, and Neeb getting some nice pickoffs, but he is going to have his...
by once again.
Wow, RiSky is doing such a great job at just making it so difficult for Neeb to move out. Every single time Neeb has tried to move out, and he has tried a lot of times, RiSky is just there with some Ling run by, with some big Roach army on the other side. He has been doing the 1-2 punch repeatedly, and Neeb has just had this big army sitting around, maxed out, is building up a bank, and hasn't been able to do anything with it.
Yeah, this is actually very, very strong play from RiSky, who's going to get pushed here with a large army of Neeb, who is aware of the potentials of Broodlords. And I love that RiSky is not remaxing on Corruptors, not remaxing on those Broodlords, but rather just looking to hold here. So Neeb might think he's under pressure to do something. And now that he's lost 20 more probes, Ravi, yeah, I don't know.
He just got to go, right? On the right-hand side, he halted because he was busy microing his pros around, warping in more Stalkers. But that meant that RiSky had more time to not only morph in more Banelings over here, he's also got those 5 Broodlords now started up.
Oh, that is huge, Ravi. If he can hold this attack, he will have a 80 worker economy. Now, Neeb is no slouch, so of course he's still at 60 after losing 40 probes, which is absurd. And he is still posturing to try and make the life of RiSky as difficult as possible. The rest of his army on the other side is now going to move in, but this army might get punished.
Oh, Archon does end up going down over there, and just the Stalkers alone do not want to be fighting versus all these Lings. The rest of the army is moving forward. I want to note Storm is done, and that's a lot of High Templars there right now, Paulo. I think that unless these can catch these Broodlords unguarded, though, it's going to have a hard time.
Yeah, the Banelings really need to connect with those Templars, and a lot of them do on the other side. It looks like Neeb is pushing and will finish that base. The Banelings do get wonderful connections, and that'll protect the Broodlords as well to where they can chase the rest of this army away, and RiSky, Ravi is holding.
Yeah, he loses one of the bases, but he is pushing back a very, very large army here from Neeb, and he is up a bit in supply. As long as he doesn't take too many more losses over here, I feel like he's still going to be in a good spot. He's got 74 workers. But again, that base count being reduced does give Neeb still an opportunity here. He's not in a great spot, but he's got that top nexus reestablished. He's got a lot of cannons there. And remember, he had made the fleet beacon. If he decided to just start making some Tempest and throw up another Stargate or something, I actually think he could get up a decent answer to the Broodlords, but I guess there's more Corruptors coming out now.
Yeah, RiSky has really been on top of things this game. Honestly, I like his production tab every time I look at it. I think this is great, right? Like, he just cleaned up an army. It's going to be difficult for Neeb to move out, but yet still, if he catches all of these Banelings, just turn around and kill the Zealots. All right, so Neeb is still looking to pressure, and I love that. Of course, he's not going to let RiSky get away with it, but if this Broodlords morph once again, I think RiSky is going to be in a commanding position.
Yeah, with so many Corruptors now finishing up, and there's still no actual air tech that is coming out right now for Neeb. He's got +1 air weapons finished, but still, again, not the massive Stargates. So, the Corruptors are going across the map. Is he can just go for the caustic spray on the buildings?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's just showing them or what the point is here. There are 4 Broodlords in production. Neeb now being a little bit tricky with the Dark Templars. It is also important to note that while RiSky has done a very good job of giving Neeb a game, we are now kind of entering his territory, Ravi. You know that better than most.
Yeah, and I actually want to note another thing about those DTs. Yes, they both get cleaned up very quickly. They actually end up doing very little damage. This DT is actually doing quite a bit more because there's no Spore Crawler over here. But this also allowed Neeb to move out. He got to this position on the map safely because those DTs drew the entire army back. But these Banelings are going to try and do some damage. I love the warp-in positioning over here from Neeb, but ooh, just a few Banelings still survive.
Oh, just go on that. Just go on that. No! Okay, he could have killed like 4 Stalkers right there just by blowing up on them right away. Still a good move for RiSky, who is also going to push the rest of the army on Neeb on the left-hand side, but will have to be careful to back away and not lose his expensive Ravagers here. There we go.
Yeah, I think the pathway over here is Neeb blinks forward, snipes off a few more of these Ravagers. If this army can catch the Broodlords in an out of position area, not even necessarily to pick them off, just they are not defending with the right base, I actually think Neeb can deny a base and secure a really solid economic lead. If he kills his base and gets out of here safely, Cats, I actually really think I start liking this position for Neeb.
I don't mind the position for RiSky either, though. And I love that he is moving across the map. He's going to the wrong base, though. Now he's going to spot this one. That's the one that he wants to take for free, I think. And then hold the rest of his bases. That would have been much better. That bases, those cannons are not going to go down. RiSky may not be paying attention to that. This is 7 Broodlords, but now without those links for buffer, it's looking all Neeb.
Yeah, the Stalkers can just blink forward. The Broodlords are over a cliffside, so this does make it awkward for those Stalkers, but you can just see there's nothing preventing the Stalkers from starting to close the gap, really. A lot of the Roaches and Ravagers are going down. Neeb is already content, just saying, well, if you're not going to let me up the ramp, I'll just kill this base too, bring you down to 2 bases, neither of which are mining, and I'm going to just be able to chill back at home. DT is going to be coming in after the Queen. Storm's coming down on the Broodlords. RiSky put up a hell of a fight in game 1, but Neeb takes it.
Yeah, yet still, like you said, Ravi, what a fight from RiSky. I think that's some of the best StarCraft I've seen him play, and at 400 APM, 480 APM as well. So that's pretty cool too. Moving fast.
That is definitely a cool note. But yeah, like I think it's one of those funny situations where, as you said, I feel like RiSky walks into this group and says, if I can take a map or 2 off of any of these players, I'll probably feel good about my performance. Him making it to this stage is already a massive, massive thing for his StarCraft career, I would say. So if he can just do this, if he can do that again in game number 2, but find a way to close it out, I think that's going to be a great victory. I actually feel like even with Neeb winning that game, RiSky is probably going to feel good. Neeb is probably going to feel worse.
Yeah, probably. I agree with that. Yeah, the expectations that we have going into the match would have Neeb coming out as a very clear victor, and that wasn't the game that we saw. I completely agree with that, Ravi. So yeah, I'd be a little shaken if I were Neeb.
All right, well, we'll find out where we head into game number 2 over here, as you guys can see over on the map vetoes and everything. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Do you feel like there's anything that you would have liked to have seen differently from Neeb? Because I think the thing that really struck me about what RiSky was doing so well was he was using these run-bys and constantly catching Neeb slightly out of position and preventing him from moving out with an army that wanted to go across the map and do something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I was more focused on RiSky's play and the things that he was doing well, and just kind of assuming that Neeb is Neeb and he's gonna defend. So I'm not sure. I think I was a lot more excited for RiSky's side of things, but Neeb was just solid, right? I mean, he was a little bit late here and there, but he had a really good recall. He had good attacks. It's not like he was really giving RiSky a lot of openings. I think RiSky was creating himself a lot of openings instead, right? Like it's more like RiSky had those packs of links ready to counterattack whenever Neeb would move out on the map to pull him back, right? It was just good play from RiSky, I think. But yeah, I mean, Neeb is Neeb.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll see whether or not RiSky can change things up as we head on to Pillars of Gold for our second map over here. Remember, these are just best of threes, and this is also the elimination match over here. One of these players gets knocked out of the group, and their kind of whole tournament experience is going to be done, but we'll see whether or not RiSky can start bringing this back, because, it's so tough right now, right? Because you're in the lower bracket, and you're saying, okay, I have to win this series, and even Neeb is thinking, like, well, after I win this, I still have to go on to fight innovation. Like, yeah, it's a really, really tough ask of like drawing up that motivation of like, okay, this series is really important, so I can go take on innovation. Cool, you know, nice and easy. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. And now we are loaded into the game and spawning in the top right-hand side with a surprisingly strong game one. It is Lions RiSky. Representing New Zealand from the UK.
And down over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have that red Protoss player sitting up 1-0 from Ting Esports. He is Neeb.
Very American.
Very American. He was my first draft pick in the Orchest Team League for a reason, Cats.
It's extremely American. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that was I saw that. I was there for sure.
Yeah, I know you drafted right after me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right before. Yeah. Right before or right? Yeah, right before.
Right after me.
No, right after. Yeah, right after and right before, in fact.
That is true. That is correct. Because yeah, you're the last one on the draft list. So.
Yep.
Well, Neeb is already able to get this probe block, by the way, on the hatchery and force out the drone to create a hatchery at the third base instead.
Yeah, I find this really annoying, to be honest. As a Zerg player, Ravi, I don't like one bit dealing with this sort of setup. It just feels than the normal setup, right? By quite a bit. Yeah. So, yeah, I hate it when it happens to me, and it doesn't seem like RiSky is really switching anything up. It looks like he's just content playing kind of a normal macro game from here, which, you know, if you're Serral, I'm okay with. If you're RiSky, I'm like, I'm not sure. Yeah, but you know what? He played a good game. I don't know, Ravi. What do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I would have before the series. I'm 100% with you, or before that last game, I should say. After that last game, I actually feel like RiSky's mid game looked really good. It's the really late game that it started looking a little bit shakier. It felt like, and Neeb started finding a few more holes and openings. But I really do feel like that mid game really impressed me, and even just that point where it's like pre-Hive Tech, I actually felt like RiSky really impressed me with just the way he was doing these 1-2 punches, finding opportunities on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, wherever Neeb wasn't, he was able to hit. And also, I mean, he actually started off that game with maybe not the most amazing start, because he still lost, 6 drones, 2 oracles or something. But like, he caught all the adepts in the middle of the map. He was finding these really nice snags and shutting down early aggression.
You know what, Ravi? You're right. I think that he did look very strong in the mid game, and I don't know if he even looked weak in the late game. It's just Neeb is maybe one of the best, if not the best, foreign Protosses when it comes to late game PvC, right? Like, a lot of the players will talk about how they just don't like generally playing late game against Neeb. Obviously, there's exceptions to that rule, but most people really respect that area of his play.
All right, well, Phoenix is going to be coming on out to start sniping off some of these overlords, and I like that the Adept actually makes us all the way into the main base. That's actually one really nice thing also. I feel like that sometimes underrated about forcing out the hatchery at the third base is that first Adept doesn't have to worry about the Queen sitting outside the natural, so you can kind of get a little bit further in with the Adept and actually shade over to the main base, shade out, and get a proper scout of the main base and see if there's anything tricky coming, which is actually not anything tricky. We got fast 4 callers and everything to deal with the oracles, but RiSky is playing it by the book.
Yeah, very few links out on the map. Maybe looking for a potential third. The Overlord's gonna go in and scout what it can scout before dying. So that's just diligent use of that. And he's actually gonna get a scout on the Robo too. So not too bad.
Okay. Well, Scout on the Robo definitely does at least eliminate some of the crazy possibilities of what Neeb could be throwing, but usually that Robo is still going to be coming out in a PvZ, especially with Neeb. He loves getting out those Immortals, getting the Warp Prism out for some nice harassment and everything, so I don't think that RiSky is going to be super surprised by this. I'm trying to think about how late game or last game also played out with the upgrades, because we spent a lot of time talking about like +1 melee versus +1 missile attack and everything. I actually do think that I really like the way that the melee upgrades ended up working out with how often RiSky was going for these big run bys and everything. The big swell of Overlords does make me wonder, okay, I thought maybe he was, you know, with the Evo chamber finishing up and everything, maybe he was just going to do a big Roach Swarm, but it looks like it might have just been a supply block.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, my quarrel with the upgrades wasn't the upgrades in itself for the composition, but rather the timing. Like this is like 2 minutes earlier than last game or something on the +1, and I like that a lot better personally, because you get so much more value of these early links and trading with those, because those are the units that you kind of want to be making early on anyway. So yeah, I like this timing a lot better from RiSky for the upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, first Immortal's out. Just can see another Immortal, so it seems like Neeb is just going to play the more passive style, because usually if you're going to think about doing some kind of move out or something, you're going to, one, have a bunch of sentries warped in for these kind of move outs, or you're going to at least have a Warp Prism that comes on out. You got to have one of the two if you want to be able to get out of there safely eventually. But yeah, Twilight Council, Forge, much more passive game here from Neeb, and just using the Oracles and the Phoenix to try and control the map a bit.
Yeah, RiSky seems to once again be going for a very similar unit composition, so maybe that is also his comfort zone as the Roach Warren is completing. A few more drones are completing, and +1 melee is also completing. I would really like to see a swell of links just to, you know, capitalize on this +1 melee, or see a little bit more movement out of these links, because it is a rather early and, you know, pretty decent timing. But I think that his main priority is just to get to that +2 again and start doing the Baneling shenanigans.
Yeah, and I mean, can't really deny the results from that last game, Paulo, because yeah, you know, killing an average of 20 workers per run by, I'd say worked out pretty well.
I would say so. Yeah, that was some of the best moves that he showed in the game. And there's of course always the potential for Overlords should he ever get rid of these Phoenixes and the Arc Control. Banelings with +2 are certainly really scary. You can run them into anything too, right? It's not just like probe lines. It's also they're way stronger against the armies. So Banelings maybe. Whoa, beautiful force fields here from Neeb.
Yeah, trapped in a lot of these links. That's going to be some nice pickoffs. I do want to note that Neeb has been overall, outside of like we were saying before, the Oracles moving around, he's been very passive, but now he's looking to get aggressive, and he just used a decent number of those force fields here. He's moving out with the Warp Prism. Charge is not yet done, and +1 weapons still on the way. I do wonder if he is going to regret having used those force fields already, but...
Oh, this Warp Prism down,
Oh my god, that's massive.
Nice move from RiSky. He's going to lose a few units for it, but it pretty much puts the end to the aggression of Neeb, who just finished another 4 warp gates, so he really wanted to lean on it.
Yeah, I honestly, at this point, I would not hate if Neeb just immediately started up Storm or something and just started thinking about the next stages of the game, because yeah, you can't really move out for a while longer. Your opponent also knows that there was a big move out planned, and to shut it down, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a great call, Ravi, and that's exactly what we're going to see. But I got to tell you, Ravi, I'm going to go ahead and predict RiSky for this game at this point. This is a risky prediction, but Ravi, I'm believing now, because he is well set up. The Baneling Nest is actually a little bit late. You want that Baneling speed to be syncing up with this +2 attack ideally, but this third is so wide open. Neeb's attack failed. RiSky got to a decent economy. He has a really good setup with a +1 melee. I think if he can manage to attack onto a very open space, that's his best bet.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, that's where RiSky's army is really going to hit its stride as well. But, well, Neeb has actually managed to get this Warp Prism out to the top right-hand side as RiSky is moving out, and there's no creep spread that's actually catching wind of that Warp Prism. There's an opportunity here for that Warp Prism to do a ton of economic damage, catch RiSky very out of position with a big Zealot Warp in, and maybe even snipe off a little bit of tech, but I will say, it doesn't look like the lair is actually over in the main base. It's over at the third base instead. So at least there's that hidden.
There is a creep tumor that just moved a little bit closer, I think, to the war prism, but not quite enough to see it, I don't think, right?
Well, get a vision check, and no, it's just still out of vision. Yeah.
Oh, that is huge. That is huge because there's no spines in the main, right? Like it seems like maybe not a huge deal, but I mean, any warping when you're out on the map into your main that's undefended, it's pretty brutal.
Okay, well, the Zells come in on the top left-hand side. Is that going to be the cue for that warp prism to get active? I will keep bringing this up because also the infestation pit is being made in the main base right now, and that does make it a vulnerable target. That is the transitionary tech for Hive. Hive does get started up immediately. RiSky very on point with that. And Neeb is, outside of these little run-bys, staying pretty passive back at home. And that does give me a little bit concerned right now, Cats, just because, again, the Broodlords, it ended up working out that last game with the Blink Stalkers and just catching a lot of the army out of position, shutting down the economy. This is not like that last game, though. Neeb does not have some insane economic edge. He's not constantly sniping off bases left and right of RiSky.
Yeah, that is true. At the same time, he has a really strong setup on the bases that he does have, and RiSky still has a very, very large army that I would have liked to see use on the other end, just because it's so much more open. Like here, where I would have liked to see the main army because this space is so much more open.
Completely agree. There's 3 or 4 different angles that you can come in a big concave on that base. So maybe there was an opportunity that was missed there for RiSky as he tried to go for the easier to secure base there for Neeb. Storms definitely push a lot of that army back. War Prism Harass does get denied, but the entire army, if you look at that mini-map, is on the right-hand side, and now Neeb can move a good chunk of his army up to the top left, snipe off that base, and honestly just recall out or something.
Yeah, he needs to recall out. That's a great call, Ravi. He needs to bunch up and do that. Otherwise, all of this army could be in grave danger, but it doesn't look like RiSky's looking to capitalize. Okay. All right.
He's going to try and capitalize on it now. There are some storms available.
Nice flank by Neeb.
The reinforcement's going to be able to prevent this, actually.
Yeah, very nice reinforcements by Neeb to cut off any flank from RiSky, and those storms are just nasty. Neeb, even in the open space, I mean, this is as good as a fight as you would want for RiSky, but the start is not good enough to really push on through, and Neeb ends up with a lot of the core of his army intact.
It's also worth noting that even though the Spire had, I think, been finished for a little bit here for RiSky, he had this Hive gun for a bit as well. The Greater Spire is only just now nearing completion, so I do think that he kind of got distracted with the big army moving in on the top left, trying to get that big surround. I mean, all of these actions come at a cost, Cass. You have to do that instead of something else. And I do think it slowed him down just maybe enough that Neeb is going to be able to get another max out here and potentially go for one big fight and then push in across the map again.
Yeah, there's also the gas that's restraining for RiSky. This is a nice potentially. Oh, gotta be paying attention to that one. So
he is so on point with those.
Yeah, what happens there is RiSky is on move command to the spot that he wants, or maybe in the middle, in that cannon or shield battery in the middle of the mineral line, just to make sure that it hits some probes, and then if he's not watching, then that can happen. This hatchery will get killed as well. Oh, okay, Neeb not watching this time around.
Yeah, the hatchery will barely survive, but it's going to be on a final lifeline. A couple of Banelings do connect with some High Templars on the front lines, but there are plenty more in the back, and Neeb has just been sniping off base after base after base. Yes, RiSky is maxed out right now, and I don't think that hatchery is going to survive for very much longer, Cats, but I mean, this is not really going to be an army that RiSky can replenish anymore. He's already depleted his bank, and he's not maxed out.
Yeah, this is just not strong enough, I think, and this is looking pretty good for Neeb. Neeb might get cleaned up here, but it doesn't matter too much for him. He already secured a 5th base and just sniped an extra 2 bases, so RiSky's down to 3.
Oh man, if the Zelts actually jump in on that Greater Spire, I feel like that just might be the deal sealer right there. The army for RiSky, even as he cleans up, is 4 Broodlords, 6 Ravagers, and 13 Lings. It's
this
nothing.
This is the seal dealer, Ravi.
There it is. And RiSky is sort of out of options. 4 Broodlords is not that critical mass we were talking about. That is very, very easy to deal with just a few Archons to try and clean up some of the Broodlings. And then the Stalkers find an opportunity to blink on top of those Broodlords. And RiSky's even getting delayed by stasis traps now. That's actually half of his Lings right there trapped.
Yeah, that's a lot of army for RiSky at this point. He only has 62 army supply. The Broodlords are in production, and he is, remaking 2 bases, which I appreciate. He's not giving up just yet. He does have a hive tech. You know, he is there. If he could hold for a while and maybe just hold 1 big attack comfortably, he could look at restabilizing. But probably not.
Yeah, and I think that Neeb is actually quite good with a lot of his late game PvZ, as we've already seen, but he's actually starting to mix in a lot of the stuff that I really enjoy seeing, and not just because I'm extremely biased and love Blink DTs, but honestly, like when you're in these kind of scrappy situations as a Zerg player, getting 5 or 6 Dark Templar or 7 Dark Templar with Blink that run into a base as you're out of position, just start sniping off your tech and everything, it's not stuff you can afford to replace, so... Well,
very quick to do it. So
yeah,
and Neeb does it in a way where, well, we'll continue to do it in a way where he's kind of splitting his he's splitting his opponents, you know, to one side and the other, and that's exactly what we see here, right? Like the DTs go on the back of the entire army of Neeb, moving on the other side, and they're looking maybe for hatch snipes. I'm not sure if this is enough. Oh, this one's gonna get a spore and everything there.
I like the way that you put it also, because he's not just hoping and crossing his fingers like, oh, I hope these DTs do some damage. He is drawing the army out of position. If the army wasn't down over there and if it was helping to deal with the DTs and the Zealots, then this army would have been doing even more damage. But you know what? Looks like Neeb has enough that he wins on both fronts. GG.